Again, the 2021 NHL Draft. I'm John Buccigross, ESPN. Jeff Gorton, former New York Rangers GM, who had the first overall pick the last NHL Draft. The great Kevin Weekes, and of course Sam Cosentino, who will break down really the scouting aspect of this, Sam. And it was a tough year for scouts. They couldn't get into rinks. They had to watch a lot of grainy video. So how did the pandemic affect evaluating talent this year?
Yeah, it was really challenging, and teams are meeting up to the last minute trying to figure this thing out. And why? Because live viewings are the gold standard in scouting. You want to be able to see a guy away from where that little picture can show you. I want to see what he's doing on the bench, how he reacts to teammates. If he's hurt, he gets banged up, he goes down the hallway, what he's doing away from the play that you don't see on that screen. You did not have as many of those live viewings in which to go by this year. Very difficult, a little bit more of a lean on the analytics, a little bit more of a lean on the Blair Witch video.
Exactly, and all the which makes it that much more intriguing, really, for me, and unpredictable. And as a result of that, you have these variables: which teams played, which leagues played, which players were able to get in games, in league games, which players went across the pond over to Europe, etc. And now you have to go back in certain instances to the underage year of some of these players. You got to go back to maybe players being in minor midget or tier 2, and you really have to glean information from more sources than you otherwise would, because you don't have the benefit of that eye test, as you were talking about.
In a world of uncertainty, drafting 18-year-old players, 17, 18-year-old players, you want some certainty. So this kind of takes certainty out of it, right? We're talking about not being able to see them live. In many cases, we don't have as many scouts' eyes on that. So as you're sitting at the table and you're asking all these people what they think of them, there's less and less of them. So it's going to be interesting.
How will goalies affect the 2021 NHL Draft? We could have a couple in the top 15, maybe one in the top 10. Who's the best in your eyes, Kevin Weekes?
I think from a sample size, you'd have to say Wallstedt, and reason being he's played against men. And there's always something to be said for being able to play against men, especially over there in the Swedish Elistrian. And the consistency in which he showed, it was really remarkable in spite of his age. And I look at his movements across the crease, situation to situation. He doesn't look overwhelmed. I saw some tape on him being in a penalty kill situation too. And as a young goalie, you can have a chance to get a little bit over anxious. But from everybody I speak to in Sweden, everybody's really impressed by his demeanor, his command, his presence in the net, and the fact that he's able to play the game either early or on time. He doesn't really overplay a lot of pucks or in situations.
We have a new NHL team this year, the Seattle Kraken. We just went through the expansion draft. Now they're about to add a player to this list. This is their projected forward lines. Yanni Gourde, great pickup from Tampa Bay. Probably slots as more as a 2 or a 3. So they certainly could get a potential #1 center for the future. Matty Beniers of Michigan, as we look at their defensive pair as well. So, Sam, as you mentioned, they could take a guy like Matty Beniers out of Michigan and slot him as a #1 or 2 center to start his career, or go D-man to supplement a nice veteran crew. That's a good way to bring in a young D-man.
Yeah, it sure is. You like the tutelage, you like the mentorship. And so there's two schools of thought here. Matty Beniers, of course, is that two-way guy. He probably rates out as a #2 guy. Yet he can play offense. He can play in all situations, win face-offs for you. You have to love the work ethic and the identity that you're trying to create with the new franchise. On the flip side of that, Edmondson is a guy that you look at some of the defensemen they took in the expansion draft, and he's very much along those lines. A big guy, 6'5", plays with a little bit of edge, can move pucks well, and maybe he's the type of guy that they take that they can have some of these older guys mentor him and be a successful 1 or 2 guy down the road.
Vancouver Canucks, man, it's a tough year last year for them with COVID, compressed schedule. Almost want to give them a pass for the whole year. But now it's time to go. They got a lot of talent here, Sam. What can they add to it to really make an impact this year?
Well, you can look at a guy like Kent Johnson. He's like the Canadian Elias Pettersson. He's from BC. That would be a really nice fit if you were able to pick a guy like that.
Smoke
He's a little
eater.
bit slight, but
Yes,
man, 101
exactly.
points with those Smoke Eaters 2 years ago as the forward of the year in the BCHL. But you're also looking at a guy like Cole Sillinger. Maybe adds a little bit what Travis Green likes. You've got some grit. You've got some goal-scoring ability. Or maybe it's Mason McTavish, who showed such a complete game at the under-18s. He had a prominent rise into the top 10. One of those 3 guys, I think, is going to be available to Vancouver there.
Those are all great options for me, and I think Mason McTavish, having played against his dad Dale back in the OHL with the Peterborough Petes, the Peterborough Mafia continues to show themselves by way of this latest iteration. So this will be intriguing.
A draft like no other. Virtual for us and really for the scouts throughout the year. Lots of questions will need to be answered. The 2021